call it spoken English program, it's actually a paradox. Paradox in the sense we already have English in schools, right? And you're teaching English for 6 days in a week, maybe 5 or 6 periods in a week. That is more than sufficient. Now again, the need to teach spoken English, I don't know where has the need arisen, right? But then this is the norm now. In every state, they're conducting spoken English programs, training teachers, and then implementing spoken English classes. If you teach English well, there is no need to teach spoken English. There is nothing sacrosanct about spoken English. Once you know a language, you should be able to use the language. That is taken for granted, right? But the problem is we are not teaching English properly. That's why this requirement has come now. Spoken English is getting neglected in the classrooms. And English is not just spoken English. English is it's a very comprehensive term, right? Language is very comprehensive. You have to teach all the skills. But I think there is some expectation from the parents that their children should be able to speak English at home, maybe with neighbors, with friends. So yes, with the family members. So it's when they have such expectations, it's our duty to help children to pick up good English. So even this is the norm in colleges also. They have special spoken English classes in colleges, maybe in universities also. Maybe one day they have to teach spoken English to university students also. Because there is inherently a problem in teaching English. We don't teach spoken Kannada, right? Spoken Kannada do we teach? No, it's Kannada. Tudu is Tudu. You don't teach spoken Tudu or spoken Konkani. But spoken English is a very special thing. It should be integrated into your regular syllabus, regular teaching and learning process. But unfortunately, that's not happening. So in the name of speaking, we generally do a lot of repetition activities. Children repeat rhymes, they sing rhymes, they do a lot of reading aloud in the classroom. They repeat after the teacher, repeating questions and answers. So that is not spoken English. If you think that is spoken English, that is wrong. It's not just speaking, not mechanically repeating what the teacher said. Right? That's called imitative activity. There are several kinds of activities. So one kind of activity is called imitative activity. Imitative in the sense children just imitate what the teachers say. They repeat mechanically. Whereas the second type of activity can be called interactive activity, where children are interacting with the peer group, interacting with the teacher, interacting with other teachers, other friends, right? So that is interactive activity. So I think spoken English comes under this interactive activity. That's where you have to develop the spoken skills, their ability to interact with others, right? It includes, it's not just speaking, you should also, if you're able to interact, then you should be able to listen well. So listening with understanding. If you cannot listen and understand, then how will you respond to it? How will you express your feelings, your ideas? Spoken English involves a bit of listening also, listening with comprehension, right? And then the third type of activity is called transactional activity. Transactional English or transactional activity. You should be able to transact in real life with the language that's available to you. When you go to a shop, you should be able to ask the shopkeeper whether the items are available. When we go to a mall, for example, or when you're interacting with a taxi driver, for example, many a time, taxi drivers, when we were in Kerala, for example, the taxi driver was not able to understand what we were saying. So listening was very poor, and that affects your speaking as well. We asked him to take us to a fort in Kerala. It's a heritage site. So we said, please take us to a fort. Maybe he didn't understand the word fort. He took us to a church instead of fort, right? So that you don't know when your children need English. Maybe some of them will become taxi drivers, or maybe Zomato or Swiggy delivery boys sometimes, or maybe very high positions that you don't know their future. If Devegowda can become the Prime Minister of India, right? Anybody can take up any position, right? Maybe ministers, MLAs, MPs, IAS officers, police commissioners sometimes, right? So it's our responsibility to give that confidence to use English for real life purposes. So that is transactional English, where you use English for everyday transaction, for transactional purposes. When you speak on the phone, for example, when you talk to bankers or other customers, you should be able to communicate well. So it's also a 21st century skill, communication. It's a 21st century skill. Many of these engineering students, they're not able to get into jobs because they're poor in communication skills. They lack communication skills. They're not able to make presentations. They're not able to face interviews. They don't pass interviews mainly because they're not able to convey their thoughts. They may know the content. They may be experts in their subject matter. But what's the use unless you are able to show it? Having a lot of knowledge inside is of no use unless you're able to demonstrate your knowledge, share your knowledge, express your ideas, feelings with others, right? So that's the kind of ability you have to develop in your children. How to showcase their talent, how to demonstrate their skills. So it's a challenge, it's not easy because there is no natural environment to speak English in the school or in the society around them, but you have to create that kind of environment, conduct lots of interesting activities in the classroom and develop their spoken skills. So basically that's what this program is about. You will get to know lots of activities, how to conduct these activities. So in order to conduct these activities, your own English should be reasonably well. So this 6-day program should actually help you to develop your confidence in the first place. You should be able to speak well. You should be a role model for your students. So spoken English involves good pronunciation. If your pronunciation is not good, maybe children will imitate the same thing, right? So reasonably good accent, reasonably good pronunciation, and a good knowledge of vocabulary. You cannot speak without having words, lexis, that's called lexical resource, words, phrases, phrasal verbs, idioms sometimes. So you have to build their vocabulary. So spoken English is not just teaching speaking. You have to build vocabulary. You have to develop their ability to construct simple sentences. So basic grammar is essential. And then of course accent, pronunciation, and then other features of conversation like turn taking. When you speak, you should know how to take turns. It's not one person speaking all the time, right? You should give turns, take turns. All these are the conventions of spoken English. And then mannerisms, using body language, facial expressions, right? And then, so vocabulary is there, grammar is involved, pronunciation is involved, and then your ability to understand the task. That's called task fulfillment or task achievement. Like when some of you came here and speak, your speech should be appropriate to the context, right? When we ask you to talk about your expectations, your needs, you should keep it relevant to the topic. So that is called task achievement. Are you able to achieve the task? Are you able to fulfill the task requirement? So these are all important elements involved in spoken English. I'm sure during this 6-day training program, you will learn quite a lot. Please take this as a great learning experience. You may be experienced MRPs. Many of you are experienced teachers. Some of you have worked as trainers, master trainers at the district level. Take this as another learning opportunity and develop your own English skills. And there is a gap of maybe 1 or 2 months before you cascade this program at the district level. So you should use that gap to update yourselves, to develop your knowledge. And keep reading, keep practicing, keep listening to good English, and try to develop your own ability to use English in the classroom, in the training center, or in the natural environment. So with that, I wish you all the very best, and I'm sure you will have a wonderful stay here for 6 days. Good luck.